All right, what is up, and welcome to the follow-up with me, Dan Tom, analyst and writer for MMALatestNews.com. Here's the show where we're going to be breaking down the post-UFC technical action from the weekend's card in comparison to my analysis and predictions articles that I put out through MMALatestNews.com. Or you can also find them through the affiliate site, my site, MixedMartialAnalyst.com. They will be the same breakdowns that we'll be going off of here, okay? This last weekend was UFC Monterrey, and this was the first time I didn't do the card from top to bottom. I only did two prelim spotlights for high-interest cards, and we did the main card, not including the tough stuff. This is not an excuse for me. I'm not trying to make excuses here. This is actually going to be the format going forward. And let me expand on it by using this UFC Monterrey, because it was a great example of we're getting a lot of subpar UFC talent that is having to fill this crazy schedule the UFC is having to put through. And at a certain point, it becomes a disservice. I want to break these cards down to you, or these certain fights down to you. I do put as much effort into the undercards as I do a main card. I put about 2 to 4 hours per card. That being said, it's a little difficult to do when you're breaking down a matchup of guys that you maybe have 13 minutes of sample size footage between them, okay? Then you factor in cards like this that a lot of them are from the tough house, so you're not getting the information released to us common folk till the week of. And even at that, especially with these regional toughs, you've got a low sample size to draw from, and they're off from official bouts for about a year to a year and a half with the tough show, in which you have many variables that cross-variable each other. They're out of their weight class, they're out of their normal environment, they're out of their comfort zone, they're away from their corners, they're having to compete against guys they're having to live in a house house within, and they're becoming friends with some of them, others they're becoming enemies with, they're training with them, maybe they're having bad training sessions, and that plays in when they have to go to fight the guy. Maybe they showed him too much, maybe the guy knows their game. There's all these things that happen, and they're young fighters that improve fight to fight miraculously anyways, as they do at that age. Way too many variables to account for, as the odds makers were completely wrong on this card, as they went, well, I don't know what they went, but let's just say all the dogs won. None of their favorites from the tough house won, so they weren't very good at predicting the values either, for what it's worth. So again, I'm not making excuses. Hard work doesn't deter me, but it's a certain diminishing point of returns for not just my effort, but for you getting proper value on these fighters. So for now on, it's just going to be the main card, and we'll be doing high interest fights, okay? You can have a word though on what those fights are for the prelims. I have a pretty good idea what I like to pick from it as the cards are released and announced. But you guys have a say in it. Like I said in the first show, you have a say in this show. Just reach out to me through Twitter at the Analyst, okay? And you can forward me there your interests, or just mean jokes you want to send my way. That's always fun too. I've got a good sense of humor. You won't hurt my feelings. Anyways, so there's that. And that said, we only did 2 cards, which we're going to start off on the prelims, and we did the 4 cards, excluding the tough finales, for the main card of UFC Monterrey. Let's just jump right into this, shall we? We went 3-3 on those 6 said cards that I did analysis for. Again, I've had an overall winning record and a per card winning record, and it sure as shit got stopped short for this one here at UFC Monterrey. So 2-3 though I did on the parlay pieces. I recommended you Fabinski and Feely, which hit. Sadly, the third was Gastelum, which didn't. We will talk about all those shortly. Props, I only recommended 1, and we went 0 for 1 because I recommended Gastelum inside the distance. Did not come to fruition. We'll talk about that. Fantasy picks was terrible. 2 high tier, 2 low tier. Only 1 high tier hit for a 1 for 4. That was Feely. And the first card to kick off the night. Let's jump right in. Lazaro versus Praxeres, probably the worst decision of the night. As I said, after that decision was read, it went to Praxeres. Split decision. That said a lot about the judging, as it was inconsistent, whether they got it right or wrong. Very inconsistent. Much unneeded split decisions. The rest of the night. The worst part about stuff like these decisions is not so much the picks, because as I said, it's not so much about the picks here. It's more about the analysis. Anybody can get the picks right, and anything can happen within a fight. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to analyze the picks here, or the analysis here, as we compare notes to what actually happened, okay? And what I wrote for this one is actually what actually happened. Both guys didn't show too much improvements or changes in their games We saw Lazaro kind of stay flat-footed and keeping himself in range, but drawing counters and showing a better jab, more effective leg kicks, which I was surprised he was throwing with the takedown threats. But he was getting away with it. He actually could have stuck with it a little more from that first round. But Lazaro's jab was landing for him, almost like BJ Penn, Sean Shirk, UFC 84 like, was just snapping. Lacked the activity though, and I think that might have cost him the first round, as I think me and a lot of other people narrowly edged that for Michel. Sorry, I love that Michel. It reminds me of a dodgeball, right? Michel. All right, so Michel got the first round. Second round, we saw Michel do a little more of that. He dropped. He didn't drop, but he clearly rocked Lazaro. He was coming over the top of the said jab. As good as that jab was, Pajeras did a good job of timing and coming over the top. As I said in the analysis, he has a good right hand, and it would be available for him, as Lazaro tends to exit range with his hands down and his head kind of up, and he gets caught with the right hand. So that still showed to be there repeatedly. His takedown defense did hold up. As I said, like his Nova União counterparts, Lazaro really shows good takedown defense against the cage, whether he's hand fighting, counter wrestling. And Pajeras really struggled with that. Even ended up on his back in round 2 due to counter wrestling. Lazaro actually ended up on top. Landed a little bit of striking, stayed a little bit active, and only because Pajeras really allowed him to. Especially initially getting to the ground, he was able to get butterflies. I think, in fact, both butterflies in. But I don't know if it was an early sign of him fatiguing. You see Pajeras just start going to the flat of his back so he can't be offensive. And he gives up. He secedes his butterflies and goes to a closed guard. And again, as we talked about closed guard, I'm not trying to down on closed guard in MMA. I think it's great if you're doing some high guards or different shoulder isolating corner locks, so on and so forth. That's all great stuff. But I'm talking about the basic closed guards that show fatigue, laziness, fight IQ, maybe a mixture of all the three. And you're essentially staying just active enough to allow the ref to keep it there instead of gambling and locking them up to get back to your feet, or, God forbid, attacking, off-balancing, sweeping, so on and so forth. Pajeras did none of those. Still somehow came out on top. I don't think they gave him, even the judges' scorecards gave him that round, though, although they did give it to Pajeras. Pajeras looked tired third round. Was really struggling. As I said, he does traditionally struggle in his third rounds. He did here, yet still got the decision. Even Brian Stan said, did they read off the wrong card? What happened? So that's that. Moving past that, we go to the tough undercards, the guys that didn't make the tough finale from Tough Mexico. This was Polo Reyes, the underdog, against Arzamendia, who they both actually just did rock'em sock'em robots. They both landed and ate each other's best shots and seemed fine. Arzamendia then desperately tries to get the wrestling game going, which was a smart move, trying to pass when he was on the ground. I believe got 2 takedowns in the first and was really struggling to hold him down that second time as Reyes got up. And Reyes got up, like a lot of guys got up in this card we'll talk about, through turtle position, standing, and using a wrist control or isolating one of the grips to keep them safe from chokes and allow them to stand. And as he uses his left to the right wrist of Arzamendia, Reyes, we talked about last week with the Holm and Rousey striking off the clinch breaks, how crucial they are. They're almost essentially free shots with a lot of guys' defensive habits of thinking they're safe as they're exiting clinches or striking exchanges. It's not only a free shot because a lot of times they don't see that shot, and the strikes you don't see hurt you the most. So again, Reyes takes that left grip to Arzamendia's right wrist, releases from the break, and hits a left hook, a real quick one. Didn't have a lot. It was actually a short one. He didn't see it coming, though. So Arzamendia drops to the floor. Round 1, KO. Okay, next undercard tough fight. Try to roll through these. Ramos versus Herrera. Okay, this one, Herrera, again, the underdog coming in against Vernon Ramos. Vernon Ramos showing really good movement off of his 2, moving his head. And Herrera just kind of looked calm. Maybe he knew something we don't. Like we aforementionedly spoke. These guys get really familiar. These guys were pretty friendly in the house from what I understand. He was just waiting for his counter. Finds it about within a minute 30, I think, in the first round. Herrera hits him with a right to come in. Hurts him, drops him, and that's all she wrote. Some controversy about the stoppage with Dan Miragliotta, as we've seen him let longer fights go before with Pat Barry, Czech Congo, for example. But I stick up for Dan. I stick up for the stoppage because it's tough. When a guy flatlines, goes limp, especially face first, no matter if he recovers or not, it's going to be very difficult to not defend the ref there for stopping it, So I go with that one. All right. After that, it was Fili versus Benitez. Okay, this was the other fight of the prelims that I actually broke down. This one came through as Andre Fili gets a round 1 KO. Excuse me. But yeah, I thought the left hook was going to play more for Fili, being that Benitez tends to keep his right low. And I was a little worried because Fili has not faced a southpaw, at least in the UFC, and Benitez pressure style might give him problems. However, Fili really showed good footwork. He was really moving to his left, looking to get the outside foot. And as we know, the outside foot often allows you to get the right hand. And it was setting up his right hand and his right kick. He was diligent about hitting that angle, was going really low with that inside leg kick from his right. And after he got Benitez baiting low a couple times, he smartly goes high. It pays off as the first one hit him through his guard, although still rocked him. Fili kind of sees blood, keeps the pressure, hits a takedown, which was nice. We talked about that extra gear that he had. That could pay off. He shows that in his level change takedown. Benitez does a great job to get up, but Fili goes right for that head kick again and nails him. Rocks him against the cage and goes a la Chuck Liddell or Jan Jacek style, however you want to call it, because he's a little more straight punches against the cage and just flurried him. Did not let him off the hook. Benitez is really tough. I wasn't sure if he was going to get the finish. I did call Fili for the win, but Fili gets it done. Gets him out of there early. Great job, Andre Fili. Next fight, Scott Jorgensen versus Perez. All I'm going to say about this one is, Perez wasn't doing Jorgensen wasn't doing too bad to the very end of the first. Thankfully, Fox Sports will delay these long broadcasts, making them extra long and painful, showing you every commercial they have as many times as they can, but they skip the interesting in-corner stuff for nerds like myself. But as I suspected, when they started the second round, Jorgensen was hurt, like it looked like, and sadly the ref and the corner, which deserves appropriate criticism as well, allowed it to keep going. You can't let fighters do that, okay? I can only imagine what it's like on the top level, but even speaking from my own experiences on the ultra low levels to inside the gym, us as martial artists and fighters are very, very stubborn people generally. We will compound our injuries, we will fight hurt, we will practice hurt. Okay, we don't need any help from the referees to get hurt more. I understand you don't want to stop it early, you want to give everybody their fair chance. But you also have to understand these fighters are going to do more damages. They need to be protected from themselves sometimes. And I don't agree with Mini Brock as John Anik was throwing jabs out there at him throughout the night, which was great. Sadly, one of the more entertaining parts of the card. We finally stop it in round 2. Thank goodness. Hopefully, Scotty does not have any long-term damage there. All right. Next fight. That's right. We had Urbina versus Fabinski. I think I skipped that. This one I was starting a breakdown on, but there really wasn't much to say that really worth the penmanship when you look at Urbina's experience to his actual fight IQ is completely off to what you would expect. He shows to be taken down a lot. Fabinski loves the takedowns. He was able to take down Gareth McClellan, a weight division up, who Gareth, not the best wrestler, but has a much better technical awareness of wrestling, counter-grappling, and MMA. And up a weight class, Fabinski was able to get the job done. I didn't think Urbina coming down from a heavier weight class as well, was going to be able to pose a big threat there, and he didn't, as we saw, just kind of a wrestling clinic. Not much to say. Let's go to the main card. Okay, this was my only dog pick. Escudero versus Leandro Silva. Not a lot to say here. I thought Leandro might have... Let's see. What do you do? Yeah. Leandro Silva. He was doing the same thing as usual. He retreats straight back and then will exit to the left or to the right of the cage, often leaving his head up, looking for counters. That's what he did, except Escudero could not really capitalize on it. As John Crouch really put to him at the end of round 1, he didn't throw his 2 enough. As I stated in my analysis, the 2 would be there for Escudero. As it was, he landed it when he threw it in round 1. He just didn't throw it enough. He was stalking and getting forward pressure, but as we saw with the judges, they were rewarding forward pressure and aggression for some fights and not others. So Wasn't going to be enough for Escudero to get it done here. Gets Leandro down round 2. Gets round 2 for sure, but that apparently tired him out more than it seemed because he just seemed really tired. And as he went for a takedown, Leandro sprawled. And again, what we saw from guys taking the back, a lot of it was from a front headlock position. We saw this a lot tonight, starting with this fight. Leandro takes the front headlock position, pulls him forward, and gets around to the back. There, he was able to take Ephraim's back and hold it to the end of round 3 to just secure the decision for him. Again, Leandro Silva having just a lot of on paper talents that just should jump out at you, but his fights don't. They're just, he allows guys in a range enough and doesn't make quite enough of a statement, but just does just enough to win the fights, it seems like, and there really isn't much to say about it. So we're going to skip that one. I believe it was a split or a unanimous. Nope, Silva took a unanimous decision there. But yeah, Escudero just lacked volume. He had all the tools necessary to win this one. That was mapped out. The opportunities were there, as Leandro showed the same tendencies from offense to defense to footwork. Just couldn't get it done. All right, then we had some tough finales. Okay, we had Marine as the favorite against Montano. Lost a close split decision. It was arguably Montano's activity that did it for him. Again, activity was sometimes being rewarded heavily for the judges, sometimes not. In this case, it was. It was a kind of a close, somewhat controversial, but not really worth talking about. Sorry. No offense to either guy. Next one. Gutierrez, the favorite against Barzola, and Barzola took this one pretty clearly unanimous decision. Outworked it, survived some trouble early. Not much to say there either. Next one was my most anticipated one of the card. Cejudo versus Formiga. We picked Cejudo for our official picks, but I wanted to remind you that Formiga was a live dog here. Cejudo, again, sample size. He's not faced a dangerous submission guy like Formiga on paper, much less the fact that Formiga can apply it on paper or in fight better than he shows on paper. A lot of jiu-jitsu world champions don't really show it too well. Leandro Silva, we were just speaking of, doesn't excel like his credentials would make you assume, whereas Formiga does a much better job translating. I mean, we've seen him slip punches and take the back off of a slip. I mean, for a guy not having great striking, that's great timing. It's great technique. Wasn't able to do that. Formiga, kind of like Escudero, the things were there for him. The right hands were landing against Cejudo, and he actually was throwing a lot more left hooks than I thought, and those were landing too. Didn't throw enough of anything though. The key junction was going to be the clinch, and it was. And the hand fighting of Cejudo was able to keep him safe, like I stated in the analysis. Really didn't do much there. Formiga, he tried to use a lot of judo. Hand fighting, very basic sweeps and Uchimata type setups. Not on the high level though. Not on the high level of a guy like a base with Cejudo, as Brian Stan was mentioning. Was not finding success and did not show the urgency or adjustments. Cejudo takes that one. Was doing really good at controlling distance. He'd be staying out of range. Cejudo would be, and he would come in quickly. You saw that as Formiga was often overshooting that left. The left hook was often going behind Cejudo's head because Cejudo would already close distance by the time Formiga tried to throw those. And that's pretty much the story. Couldn't catch him. So he loses the split decision. That was really weird. Again, inconsistencies. I don't know what the judges were watching. It was pretty clear unanimous decision for Cejudo. Takes a split decision. At least they got it right. Got that one right. Next, Lamas versus Sanchez. Okay, Sanchez looked he didn't gas and he had intensity, but just, he looked like he was moving in the mud, or like a stick in the mud or whatever, or trucks in the mud, or however Conor McGregor said it. And that's how Diego almost seemed on my second watch of this fight. I don't know what you guys thought, but he just seemed like he was really struggling from the get-go. Lamas doing what I said before is so weird. The guy doesn't counter. Countering is what Diego's most vulnerable to, so I was hoping he would pull it out if he had it. But I watched footage from WEC days on Lamas leading into this fight, and he doesn't counter. He circles, he resets. Resets a better word, as Jordan Killian was using. We talked about this on MMA Latest's Pound for Pound podcast, where we do the roundtable. But we discussed this yet. He still didn't show countering. It's really weird. good strikers to bad strikers will at least attempt to counter, right? Whether they're good, whether they're good or not, whether they hit or miss or not, we see them attempt it. Lamas doesn't even attempt counter strike. It's really weird. Watch him. He does everything well, but he's only focusing on one thing at a time. When he's striking, he's not really transitioning to the wrestling. When he's wrestling, he's only wrestling. And even within the striking, when he's kicking, he's doing all these great variety of kicks as he showed improvement setups on his hook kicks, change-ups on his stances, feints with the kicks, different looks, all great, but just throwing kicks, no setups. It's like when he's doing one thing, he's only doing one thing. Everybody compartmentalizes, and it comes out in their style to a certain extent, but man, Lamas really compartmentalizes. Just watch that. Really cool note. Second round, Lamas, again, the calf kick, return to the calf kick. He hits that inside calf kick that's open as he's facing a southpaw opponent, and Lamas being orthodox, that right power to the inside of Diego's right inside of his leg is wide open. Just hits him with one clean one exactly at the 3-minute mark of round 2. And hurts Diego. Diego has to go on one leg for the rest of the 3 minutes there. Lamas mixes in some intelligent cage pressure, was hitting nice left hooks off those kicks, and then going in and getting takedowns. Really cool exchanges and scrambles. Diego was hitting his patent switch that he looks for, but Lamas was doing an excellent job at riding. We talked about that with the Ben Nguyen, Ryan Benoit, where guys are riding the back and they'll put hooks in and they'll dismount and they'll remount. Lamas was showing that he dismounted an early attempt only to remount later, was showing really good awareness of where the cage was, what Diego was doing. You see Diego often doing, all the way back to his fights, even from that fight with BJ Penn, where he'll get up off the floor. And like we spoke of earlier in the card, they'll turtle, where they have kind of both their hands on the ground, both their feet on the ground, and their butt in the air. So they're kind of making a point like this, right? And making your point as much of an angle as possible. That way, if guys try to get on top of your back, they're sliding off. Whereas if you get up as a tabletop more, where you're kind of on your forearms, elbows, hands, and your knees more so, then with your butt up in the air, you're more of a flat back. That's when you guys will see the back take, and they can get their hooks in because their balance isn't compromised. So Diego does a really good job at making sure he's almost like making a triangle with his butt up in the air. Makes it hard to take the back. Lamas was aware of that, so he was riding appropriately, body locking and kneeing to the thighs at those times when he couldn't take the back. Great riding, great sense of awareness by Lamas there. You showed excellent get-ups. A lot of guys are getting more smart. They're bellying down to get up, right? Whether they're transitioning from guard or just a mid-scramble, they're bellying down. They're securing a strong overhook, bellying down to get away and out of the takedown attempt and back to their feet. Lamas did a great job of that, also controlling wrist to help that. We talked about hand fighting and grip fighting, how it helps open those things up. Earns the decision. Not sure where Diego goes from here. Great showing for Lamas. Okay, Magnum. There we go. Maybe Magnum, right? Magny versus Gastelum. There we go. That's better. Magny showed much improved wrestling and jiu-jitsu overall. Okay, he was able to out-wrestle Kelvin in key scramble exchanges, as we saw him essentially control Kelvin rounds 1 and 2. No one has argument for this, right? Because there was some controversy on this decision. No argument for me either. 10-9 clearly for Magny in the first 2 rounds. Gastelum was just essentially having trouble closing the distance. As I said, he's available on entries. I was hoping Gastelum would show more improved striking. Being with Rafael Cordero, did not show improved head movement as far as striking, though, because his head was straight in the center as he was hit oncoming, and later as we saw Magny doubling up on the jabs when he was exiting range. He was just eating 1, 2, 3 jabs as he thought he was safe exiting, and when he was in close, he was getting out-wrestled, which was a surprise to me and a surprise to most of our analysis. We got that wrong. Magny gets the back all the time, but he loses it too, as he got the back twice, but also lost it twice, because his floating and loose style, as awesome as that is, I like to float myself. Sometimes he floats a little too much, stays a little too loose, and was allowing Kelvin to kick out, get out the back door, get his butt high like we were talking about, making that triangle angle and slipping Magny off the top. But still, Magny did a great job at controlling, out-wrestling, won those first 2 rounds. The third round was really close. Really close. Neither guy really got secure takedowns. Magny made 2 attempts, got him down toward the last minute. Kelvin got right back up. let's see. Kelvin was just overall hesitant though in round 3. So even though I almost initially wanted to give it to him. On second look, he was really hesitant. 3. Oh yeah, this was a cool thing at round 3. 45 seconds left. Like I said, Magny got him down. Kelvin got right back up, but Magny went right to a body lock as he got up, trying to take the back again. And as Kelvin went to turtle, he kind of dropped down to the knees. He went to more of that tabletop we were talking about, as opposed to making that triangle where your butt's in the air. And this is the point where Magny kind of kept his body lock, but was kind of off to the side. Now, a lot of times when they're off to the side, guys will keep that one arm over and they'll look to strike or jump their hooks back in. What's dangerous, though, is when they have that arm almost rested around the guy's hips as he's turtled. They put too much weight, or they give him a good grip on said arm, and they put too much weight forward. It can open him up for a turtle sweep, or what's known in wrestling as the Peterson roll. And I really like this one. This is probably something that I like to set up a lot from a similar setup, where you're kind of turtled out, and a guy will take that rest position for a second off to the side, where he'll put his weight on you, and sometimes he'll put his arm a little too in. He'll give you a little bit too much grip. And Kelvin used that, and he also accompanied it with a leg hook, which I don't really like because sometimes you can get your arm caught in there, and then you're on top of your crucifix on the guy. But Kelvin used that as well to assist his Peterson rolls and gets on top briefly at the end on round 3, which also can kind of make an argument there that he got the round, but that was only with a couple seconds left. Round 4, Kelvin comes out aggressive, and within about a minute 30. There wasn't a clinch break, but it was a break of exchange. Okay, it was where you kind of come in and you strike close. You don't really go for the underhooks or any wrestling, but you back out. Okay, it's a natural rhythm you see in striking exchanges. We saw it here, and again, it's the clinch breaks that's going to be the most effective. And as Magny, although it was subtle, he comes in and comes out. There was just a split second where he came out. The head was high. And Kelvin actually followed up. By this time he was showing more aggression. Cordero was on him after the first round and only got more intent with his message. Shout out to Rafael Cordero. Did a great job cornering and made a big difference in Gastelum's aggression, which he seemed to have held back between rounds 4 and 5, which probably ultimately cost him a decision, whether you agree with it or not. Knocks Magny down. Knocks him down twice. Gets 2 takedowns and multiple passes as he was passing from full guard to half guard to side control. Side control to crucifixes to ground and pound multiple times, multiple passes, dropping them twice. Still not enough for a 10-8. That's my argument. I thought there could have been a 10-8 there. I don't know what a guy's got to do to get a 10-8 if you drop him twice and get said takedowns and passes and activity and forward pressure and aggression. Granted, Kelvin trying to get grapple with his opponent when he has him hurt didn't really allow the judges to see how hurt Magny was, so he might have done himself a disservice by trying to grapple with him. Still, fighters, you guys are gonna have to start bringing in prison shanks to earn your 10-8 rounds from here on out. Okay, at least in fighting in Monterrey, right? Okay, essentially, I mean that's what it feels like. Round 5 comes through, and yeah, Kelvin's still trying to engage in grappling, still showing good pressure. I definitely thought he took that round. Spends the last minute on top. Does a great job, does a great effort. Always love to see a guy come back. But again, split decision, and it goes the way of Magny. I feel bad. I've picked against Magny twice now. And it's nothing personal. I love him. I backed him hard against Damian Maia, and I don't know if it's I got burnt so bad there, but I've picked against him on paper, and he made me burn for it, man. Magny, great job. Really looking forward to seeing how this activity continues to pay off for you, my man. All right, fight of the night, Magny Gastelum. In corner performance of the night, Rafael Cordero. Random award, John Anik and his jabs towards mini Brock Lesnar, the referee that should have stopped and saved Scott Jorgensen's calf. And fighter of the night, we're going to give it to Feely. Had a great performance, okay? Sorry, I tried to make that one as enthusiastic and short and sweet as possible. It's a little tough. We'll put this card behind us, and we'll look forward to next week, okay? It's going to be Henderson versus Masvidal. Make sure you look at MMALatestNews.com. I'll be having prelim spotlights and the main card covered for you through there, okay? So follow MMALatestNews.com. Feel free to check out my site, MixedMartialAnalyst.com. We'll have past breakdowns there for you. And follow me and get at me on Twitter, @the MM Analyst, okay? Any suggestions at all? Until then, have a good week and protect your neck.